Hi guys, please like, share and subscribe. And if you want full course for any actuarial subject, visit theactuarialguy.com or WhatsApp on this number. Thank you.
Hello and welcome guys. In this video, I am going to discuss how to build the perfect actuarial fresher resume. Now, the resume that I will show you as a template has been built assuming that you are an actuarial fresher with some internship experience. But the principles that I discuss apply universally. They apply to actuarial freshers without any experience. They apply to actuarial professionals with some experience. They also apply to professionals in other industries. So you can use these principles universally, right? With that, let's dive right into this. The first thing you must remember if you are applying for any opening in India is that your employer is going to be bombarded with resumes. The recruiter would typically get 200 to 300 resumes if you are applying for a actual fresher role, right? So with that, they read your resume in under 1 minute. At least the first glance happens in under 1 minute. And if there are any major red flags, they reject your resume and it just goes into the waste bin after that, and it's never looked at again. That's how harsh it is, right? Uh, it's only after the first minute, 1 minute, if they find it interesting, they look through further because they do not have a lot of time, right? And this is not a core part of their job. They have other things to do as well. So you must remember that a lot of resumes are filtered by AI based softwares and automated programs. So uh, in those cases also it matters that you write them in the right way and you use the right sort of keywords, right? So those are some of the important things that you should remember. Uh, content and readability is much more important than aesthetic. While the aesthetic of the resume matters, it should look professional, it should look formal, whether you put your photo on it or not, whether you colored it purple or blue or green, uh, whether you beautify it a lot doesn't matter a lot. It might have some subconscious effect, but content and readability matter much more. From a readability point of view, whatever sections are very important, whatever keywords are very important, whatever points are very important, you should mark them in bold. That increases the readability a lot, right? So that is something which is very important to remember. uh, this is super important. Grammatical errors are completely unacceptable. uh, for a lot of employers, grammatical errors are a major turnoff, because they show that you have not put in enough effort to even check your resume on a simple Microsoft Word like program, because even Microsoft Word has a grammatical check. If you want to check the grammar of your resume, one thing you can do is put it on Microsoft Word and check all of the markings for spell and grammar checks, the red and the green underlines, right? And just fix them. Another thing you can do is you can put it through an AI based, LLM based program such as ChatGPT, and that will make your resume free of any grammatical errors. Some employers may not care about grammar, but a lot of them do. And I find a lot of resumes of particularly actuarial folks with bad grammar, right? So that is something I think is very easy to work on, and it's very important, right? Uh, Finally, be 100% honest on your resume. You will be questioned, you will be scrutinized, or you can be scrutinized on every point in your resume. So do not lie, because then you are leaving something on which the employer can literally grill you, ask you questions, and you would not be able to answer. And you would first end up getting embarrassed, second, you would not be selected, right? So be very honest. Write only pointers that you can defend 100%. You should be comfortable with your entire resume. You should be able to defend each and every point on it, right? Now, with these fundamental principles, let's get into what is the purpose of a resume, right? I think there are three important purposes. The first one is to show your intent and skills, right? So you have to mention of all of your skills properly, and uh, showing intent matters. Your career objective section shows your intent. The fact that you have done some certifications to inculcate the skills that you have uh, suggested on the resume, that you know. If you have done some certification, that shows your intent. While the certification itself may not matter, but it shows that you put in the hours. If you've done some projects, some case studies on it, it shows your intent, right? So intent is very important as much as skills. The second is, it showcases that you meet the eligibility criteria on the recruiter's part. A lot of times they will have some eligibility criteria, so many actuarial exams passed, so much percentage in your board exams, graduation mark exams, whatever, right? So the resume is supposed to show that you meet those eligibility criteria. And finally, and this is the most important purpose of your resume, it is to induce the interviewer to ask questions from your strength areas. Through your interviewer will use your resume to ask you questions. Uh, Most of your interview, at least one or two rounds of it, would be focused on the resume, right? You can put in things in the resume, you can put in pointers relating to your areas of interest, relating to your strength areas, so that the interviewer asks questions about those areas and you are able to answer properly and showcase your brilliance or excellence in those areas, right? So that is one of the most important purposes of a resume. Now the resume that I will show you has been generated through ChatGPT. I will also share the prompt with you. In fact, the entire chat. The link to that is in the description. I've not added any formatting to this resume. Obviously, when you submit your own resume, you should add some formatting. But because I do not think that aesthetic is very important, that is not something I'm guiding you on. You can find any standard template online, any standard one page template online. Although my template is 3 pages, but that is because I've tried to be too exhaustive. But you should try to fit your resume in one page. So you should pick any one page template and then follow all of the section wise principles that I would discuss now. Now, let's go into it section by section. What should be included in your resume? So, at the top of your resume, these things are a must. Your name should be there, your phone number should be there, your email should be there. LinkedIn is a good idea to put, and what you should do here is you should hyper your LinkedIn to your LinkedIn profile, so that when anyone clicks it, they're directly redirected to your LinkedIn profile. That is very important, right? So these things are important. Location, typically you should write your city along with the country, right? Because then employers have a certain preference for candidates who are locally based, right? Because at fresher levels, it's unfortunate, but some employers do not want to uh, hire candidates from other cities because they'll have to pay for relocation. The salary expectation would increase because they would the candidate would move there and would require to pay rent and all of that. That is a bias I've seen actively. You can also use this section creatively. uh, if you want, you can write your location to be the one that you are applying for the job in. That is misrepresentation, but I think it's all right, because employers anyway have a bias, and that is not correct. They should not be having that. They should not be discriminating against you based on where you're based. So you can just put the location as whatever your uh, employer's location is, right? You can also write an address here, right? So this is the first section. Second,
This section is an optional section, that is the resume summary or career objective. A lot of times this is written as career objective. Write it only if you can write something unique which makes you stand out. Don't write something that is generic and boring. Okay, a lot of candidates would just write that I am looking to contribute to the success of the organization, and jargon like that. Nobody cares. Okay, uh, if you can write something authentic, if you can write something that the rest of your resume doesn't show, some good story about your life, what drives you, what do you care about, uh, what is your worldview, things like that. If you can write that, a lot of times that helps, right? But don't write a generic career objective which you have copied from another resume. Don't write something that any other random person can write. Okay, and definitely don't write that I want to use my skills to contribute to the success of your organization and all of that. That is just low effort, and nobody cares about that. If you are writing that kind of stuff, don't write this section at all. Okay, so that's the first thing. Second section is on exam qualified, very important for actuarial candidates. Just put the institute that you have passed the exam from and your exams. Should you put your scores? If you have AIR, if you have very high scores, put them. If you do not, then don't, let them be, right? So anything that helps you differentiate yourself, you should put. But if it is just generic, let it out, right? Because you have limited attention span from the employer. So if you have scored like 55 in an exam, why do you even want to put that, right? So this is your exam qualified section, very clean and simple, right? Now the next section is your in on your educational qualification, right? uh, the order of section doesn't matter, but this is a typical order that a lot of candidates follow, so I've just taken that. uh, some things which you should definitely pay attention to is that technical skills should be fairly at the top. You could have here what we could have done was technical skills could have been above educational qualification because they matter more. Under educational qualification, you put your degree, you put your college or university name and year of graduation. This is mandatory. You can put your GPA or percentage if that is good, right? Or if that, even if that's reasonably all right, anything above 7, you should put it here. Uh, and a lot of employers, particularly the big four, have a filtering criteria. If your percentage is below a certain mark, they do not hire you. So this is something you should put. You can put your class 12 and class 10 passing as well. You can put your percentages, but that is not mandatory. That's all right to do if you are a fresher and you have nothing else to put. Now, couple of important things here. From your coursework, you should, whatever you studied in your bachelor's degree, you should put the courses which you think would be relevant to an actuarial job. If you did some accounting related courses or some business related courses, uh, which can help you stand out for this job, and you did a commerce degree, you can put that. If you've done a statistics or a math degree, you might want to talk about some of these topics which have an overlap with the actuarial science. It just shows that you have a quantitative aptitude, and again shows your intent that you came to actuarial science with a quantitative bent of mind, right? So that is important. And if you have any other achievements or projects that you've done through your graduation, through your undergrad degree, you should put them here. Putting stuff which is more relevant to actuarial science or insurance would obviously be helpful. If you uh, performed exceptionally in your academics, you should put that here. So for example, top 5% in the class, right? Now this is one of the most important sections, which is technical skills. You should try to have one. This is very indicative of what is the kind of technical skills actuarial freshers and actuarial professionals should have. So you want to have at least one programming language, Python or R, and you should mention the libraries that you know, so that if the employer wants to check certain knowledge, they can ask you question based on these. See, the purpose of your resume, one is for you to get shortlisted. Second, it also has to be a guiding tool for your interview, right? So you have to give the employer some points which he or she can question you on, right? So if I've written these packages, employer knows exactly what I'm claiming to know, right? Exactly what my skills are, and then they can question me on this. So you have to help the employer assess you properly, and this resume has to help them assess you properly. So that is the objective, right? So you should mention the specific aspects of these technical skills that you know, right? Just writing Python would not be helpful, right? What are the various libraries that you know? That is more helpful, right? Again, with SQL, you can again mention the kind of functions you know, which SQL you've worked on. That, I mean, this is kind of optional, but you can put it, right? Then Microsoft Excel, again, you can write in more detail here. Here I've mentioned including VBA, but you can write like advanced Microsoft Excel, including functions like VLOOKUP, pivot table, all of that, right? So you can mention it that way, right? So things like that. These things need to be in more detail, right? That if you know some tool, what is the level of detail you know it at, and what are the various libraries or functionalities that you're familiar with. Then you should add a section on your work experiences, right? So work experiences, if you have any, you should put couple of things here. One, you should always write your resume from an impact first approach. Okay, what was the impact that your work had, right? So if you built a forecasting model using Python and Excel, improved reserve estimation accuracy by 15%, right? So this is impact, right? Like, I have quantified what has been my impact in the organization. This is very important. Good resumes always position everything from an outcome first approach. There can be two sorts of outcome. One, how it benefited the organization. Second, how it benefited you. So one can be what was the outcome for the organization as it has been written here, and another thing, another way of writing this can be that what did you learn out of it, or what was your takeaway from it. So those are the two ways to mention your work experience or projects, etc., right? So that is very important, the way you write it. Next, should your resume be multiple pages? Yes, it can be, just that the most important thing should be at the first page. For most people, one page suffices, but because I wanted to create a very exhaustive summary here, we have taken multiple pages. But because your employer's attention span is limited, try to stick to one page, right? It's CVs which are longer. Resumes are typically one page. Okay, CVs are longer than resume. They are more detailed, right? So those are some rules of thumb for you. Okay, so again, with the work experience, outcome first, and what did you learn? That should be your approach. Okay, then you can mention some projects that you did during college, after college, etc. Again, your approach for this should always be outcome first, impact first. What was my learning, right? uh, Implemented anomaly detection techniques, flagging 2% of claims for further review. So you have quantified what the outcome was, what the impact was, right? Analyze insurance claim data using Python and SQL to identify fraudulent patterns. So the language here is very, very clear, right? Like, what did you do, using what, and what was the outcome of that, right? So that is very important. Then you can put some volunteering experience if you have them. Try to position them in a way of how that showed your zeal, your enthusiasm, and how does it further help you in the career, right? So that can be a lens you can have. Anything that makes you a better candidate for the organization goes here, and that should be the language that you should be using, right? Positions of responsibilities in college you should definitely put, right? Like if you headed some society in college, uh, if you manage some event, again the approach should be the same: outcome first, quantify everything. What was the size of the event you mentioned, how many people came, what did you learn out of it, things like that, right? You can put your certifications if you have done any. Again, certifications don't matter a lot. They only matter from the point of view that they show that you are very interested in these things, right? So they show intent, that you have put in effort to do a certification, right? These communicate intent. Apart from that, they don't do anything, right? So it's not important whether you did it from Coursera, Udemy, or wherever. What matters more is that you did a certification. Of course you can mention where you did it from, right? But that is very secondary. Finally, interest. This is a very optional section. uh, if you want to put, if there is something you would like the interviewer to get to, if there is something you would want them to ask you in the interview, you should put that here. If you have some, uh, things that you enjoy discussing, something that you have very interesting point of view on, you should put that here, right? See, resume is also a device for you to be able to control the conversation in the interview, right? uh, because you have submitted this resume, a certain kind of questions will come to you, right? They will look at your resume and interview you. So you can drive that conversation in your favor using this resume, right? So those were some very practical tips that come in handy. Apart from that, obviously you can beautify your resume as you want, and I don't think that matters a lot. One additional thing that ChatGPT did not do here, things like these, right, where you have written increased renewal rates by 8%, you can make this bold. Okay, anything which is important, you can bold it, you can make it bold, right? So that it's easier to read, right? So for example, here I would have made insurance claim data bold, Python and SQL bold, right? Here I would have made anonymously detection techniques bold, right? Things like these. So whatever is important, you make it in bold, right? Whatever you really want them to read, you can also use that as a tool to bring attention to specific things, right? In summary, this is very big, right? So I would just make certain aspects of it bold, right? So for example, I would make insurance risks, markets, etc. bold, right? And if you go through this summary, it's a very personalized summary, right? So I've written it as numbers tell stories, and I've always been fascinated by how randomness shapes the world. This is a unique point of view that I have added here, so that is very important. Whether it's financial markets, insurance risk, or unpredictability of life itself, I see everything as a series of probabilistic events, right? So this is you living actuarial science every day, right? You are in it because you genuinely believe in it, right? My passion for mathematics and statistics drives me to not only understand uncertainties but shift probabilities in my favor through logic, models, and data driven decisions. So this shows that you have a certain kind of personality that is coming out through this, right? Um, so this is the kind of summary you should be writing, which is unique and uh, particular to you, right? And then I am talking about making better decisions through the power of math, right? You can also put in some aspect about if you have a goal of making the world a better place, some causes you care about, things like that, right? So that's all for how you build a good actuarial or any other resume.